Hey everybody, it's me, V the Sepia Scholar, and I'm here with my what should I call y'all? Y'all not really just a book club, or travel buddies, STEM besties, um,
Those all sound good to
life
me.
partners in a platonic way, all those things. And I hope this video finds you happy, blessed, and loved. As usual, we're dropping in to do another book review, and I believe this is one that Daisy chose. So I'm gonna go ahead and give an explanation of how we got together because YouTube loves consistency. Anyways, me and my friends here, Karla, I was best friends in college with her. We went to college together. Daisy's her little sister, my little sister. Cindy's my new favorite engineer. But overall person, we basically got together to go on one of my bucket list trips, aka Carla's big birthday trip to Hawaii, and we had such an amazing time there that and we turned up, but we turned up in a very studious way. Anyways, there's a lot of drinking, a lot of safety. What is it? A lot of trips to natural habitats I had never been to before. I kind of questioned Carla if she was trying to take me out a little bit, but good food, and just good times. And we sat on the beach. It sounds amazing. We sat on the beach with a lot of chickens, looked at the sunset, and talked about books. And we got so happy and excited about it, we decided to start this book club on my channel. I'm the Sepia Scholar. I've been doing this. I think it's going on 2 years. I've been super duper busy lately, so I've been neglecting y'all. But we have been working on this lovely, lovely chat for you all. We read the book. It's The Rose Code by Quinn. I have my thoughts on it, and we're gonna get on here and chat about it. Don't worry, good thoughts. I like the book. Spoiler alert. So we're gonna go through the book, the plot, all those good things. Then we're gonna get real. So before we do that, let's have each of you say something real quick. Daisy, you can go first.
Are we doing like the introduction like we usually?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Hello, my name is Daisy. I am in the STEM area. I am a project manager for a company that works for general contractors for the government. We help migrate applications into the cloud. So just very, very technical stuff that I don't necessarily get into because I am the horrible like stigma of the person who has no idea what they're talking about and then will go look it up in books and be like, now I understand what you're saying. So, but yeah, I help run a team to do that, and I'm located in Arizona. Super beautiful right now. It's like 58 degrees. I have my little sweater
Ooh.
behind me. I know. I'm like, I get to take my sweaters out of the closet. Other than that, yeah, I'm a mama of 3 kids. So if you hear any crazy yelling or screaming, they're fine. They're
Yeah.
fine.
Nope, they're great. We love them.
All right, I'll pass it off.
Carla.
I am also located in Arizona, also STEM related. As V said, she and I went to college together. We had those are some great college days, V.
Yes, man. Woo! Look, they don't owe me nothing.
um, and I've traveled internationally a bit, and I was just really, really glad to get to go to Hawaii with these ladies here. It was such a great trip. Actually, thinking about it because we're coming up on our 1 year anniversary of that here fairly soon.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, this book club was kind of born out of that. We all enjoy books. At this point in my life with the kids and the numerous activities that I get into, I listen to a lot of audiobooks versus actually reading those. But I still very much enjoy the story of these books. And I oftentimes like to just throw on some headphones or even like the headphones that come in like a headband so that you can sleep with them and they lull me to sleep.
Oh wow.
And with a sleep timer, and then when I get to it in the morning, I'm like, oh, I haven't heard this. I need to like rewind.
Yeah, that's the
But
part. Listening to the books while you're falling asleep is not good because it's good, soothing, but you miss parts and you end up having to go back anyway.
true, and I tend to listen to a lot of nonfiction stuff that's
Mhm.
interesting, but all the facts and stuff just lull me to sleep. So great way to fall asleep. And if I get up in the middle of the night, I'm like, where am I? Where's my headband? I need to throw it on so I can throw on my
Fall back
a little bit about me.
All right, Cindy, my Vegas buddy.
Hi, good morning. I'm Cindy. I'm an engineer, also located in Arizona, like Deysi and Karla. I have 2 kids. Currently, both are asleep. It's a little early in Arizona right now, and it's really cold. It's a whole 50 degrees, and it's cold. I will be pulling out my beanies and scarves here in the next week or so. I'm not. I don't do well in the cold.
We had a brutal summer.
Yeah.
We have brutal summers. You're right.
But this one in particular is really bad.
Yeah.
Oh, I like it.
I will vouch for it being brutal because you guys you don't really sweat there in those areas. And when I was walking around Vegas, I was like, I know I'm hot, but we're not sweating, so you have to keep guzzling water to make sure that you stay cool. It was it was a lot. All right, so everybody's introduced themselves. I'm V, the Sepia scholar. Yes, I'm in STEM as well. By discipline, a civil structural engineer. By life, a whole lot of other engineer. I got 3 kiddies myself. One of them just turned 18. Yeah. Karla's godson just turned 18. Either way, it's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of milestones. So it's all going real fast, and then work and all that crazy stuff. So I got a lot going on. So this book kind of soothes me. I ain't gonna lie. It was soothing for somebody. I don't know if it was a narration voice. I have no clue. But what book are we talking about? We're talking about The Rose Code by Kate Quinn. So as I warned you guys before, because I had my shenanigans with my computer, right? I had shenanigans with my computer. It basically died. And then life was lifing. There was a whole lot going on. So we're going to go by the seat of our pants. And I'm going to kind of let y'all run the show. But, we always start off with what's the plot. So let me go ahead and grab the synopsis and I'll read that off. And then we'll jump off from there. Sounds good?
Sounds good.
So
great.
What's the plot? Let me find what I did. So let's do a quick summary, a quick recap. Hopefully the recap is really quick. So 3 women, Beth, Asla, and Mab, work on various aspects of code breaking in Bletchley Park, BP, during World War II. Beth learns that there's a traitor at BP, but she gets hauled off to an asylum so that she can't report it. The women's friendships also splinters at the end due to Beth not warning others because she has taken an oath of secrecy about a raid that kills Mab's husband and child. Me and that lady went and talked again. But years later, Beth calls upon the other women to help fight her, to get her out of out before she's scheduled for a lobotomy. Y'all, do you guys remember what a lobotomy is? Isn't it what would take out part of your brain?
Oh yeah.
They sever some connections in your brain.
Ooh,
even in the book,
carve it out.
They pretty much say they take like a spatula and they hammer until
oh my gosh,
speak anymore. You're like, oh,
psychiatry and all that stuff was very, very. I'm sorry, barbaric. And I saw total side note, but when I watched what is it, Queen Charlotte, and they were doing those things on her husband or whatever. I forgot which king he was. And they were going through the different motions of how they treated people with mental illness. I just barely could make it through that. Barely. Anyways, together calling a bunch of former BP cryptographers as reinforcements, they get Beth out and decode the messages, the titular Rose Code needed to identify and arrest the traitor.
Mm-hmm.
So that's basically the plot of the book. And let's hit some of the main characters. I already called their names, but the main characters are Asla Kendall. Y'all like my little debutante hair?
yeah.
Mabel Chert and Bethan, aka Beth Finch. So I can do a little quick summary of them too, and then I will be done with the summaries, baby. Look, if I can find them, hold on. Or maybe I'll have one of you guys do it. All right, I'm gonna let you guys do it while I'm looking.
We can all
Karla,
take.
you do Beth.
You want me to talk about her?
Yeah.
She is this browbeaten young woman that lives with her parents.
Mhm.
She's the youngest of, I want to say, 6 kids or multiple kids. I think it was 6. And her mother is the biggest bully. She has steamrolled her father. Her father just kind of falls in line with what the mother goes with. And she lives in object terror of everything around her. She's so browbeaten that she rarely talks to people. So people think she's very dumb and incapable. And it's not until Osla and Mabel are quartered in their home with them, because they're in the surrounding area of Bletchley Park, that they make an effort to befriend her. And in that friendship, they bring her out so that she can finally get to know who she is as a person and develop herself as a true independent human being, and earns her independence from her family and also as a career woman as well. And of course,
That was an
ends up in
amazing
the
summary.
asylum, to pay for her womanly, penance of, or pardon, the sin of wanting to be independent. So,
Hi, Colton. He always drops in. Thank you for the love. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and have Deysi do Mabel.
Mabel Churt. So Mabel grew up in a, let's just say, low income side of London, where it was very difficult for her to just do just basic necessities, right? They would have to go without food to just get shoes or do whatever they needed to. So she grew up knowing that she would have to really work hard, right? So she would watch cinema to try to intimidate the accents, find out how people like hold their cigarettes. She would then like kind of hang out in other areas of posher London to figure out how they speak, so that she didn't have the same accents as the lower income areas. She even like strived to be a career woman, right? To get out and save money to do whatever she needed to do. But in that process, right, she, even though she is not naive in the world of finance, but she is naive in the world of just human nature. She finds herself in several instances where um, I guess she is seduced by just men in general. And so this turns her very bitter about life and about what she needs to do to make her better. So her whole concept is to make herself better so that she can find a good husband to support her for the rest of her life, and she will be the best wife that she can be, because that's the only real um, goal that she can have as a woman during that time frame. So she does get an offer to be like a secretary at Bletchley Park, and she snatches it right up and goes and finds out what other young ladies very similar to her age are doing, and she kind of gets inspired and goes from there. But she ends up falling or finding a very fantastic husband who, even though doesn't really speak, is so romantic and woos her. And yeah, the story kind of unravels from there. I don't want to get too much into it, just in case you guys do want to see it. But it's she goes through a journey of finding herself during this book, and it doesn't end great until maybe towards like the last 30-40 pages of the book.
I'm telling you, let me tell you, the scenes between, before we jump into Asla, but the scenes between her and I believe her husband is Francis Gray.
The
I
poet.
be tearing up some names. But anyways, like even like when he says, I'm gonna go buy you a ring, and he says, but I don't know if I'm gonna be able to find a ruby as red as your lips. Let me tell you, that man was chatting, boy. He was chatting, he was putting it down on that. I said, oh. But like he was
When they
so
reach
romantic and he was so in love, and she was so in love. Like it was very inspiring. So that part touched me. So, but I'm gonna have Cindy do Asla.
All right. I liked Asla. I thought she was a good character. Let me see. Okay. So Asla is an upper class debutante who is, I think her mom is Canadian, but somehow she's got some connection to England or the UK. She starts seeing Prince Philip of Greece before he ships off to war, and she goes to Bletchley Park. And on the train to Bletchley Park, she actually meets Mab, and they have quite a hilarious introduction. I think. Do you remember that? It was fantastic. She's a good character. I really enjoyed her. But she worked at Bletchley Park as a code breaker, first as a secretary, and eventually she moved up to be a code breaker. And there's some tragedy in her story as well. But I think it ended well.
Yes, I really like for her. What stood out to me, this is gonna sound kind of crazy, but I saw like Paris Hilton and like in my mind. That's like not. I mean, in Paris Hilton, you know, they played like that they weren't smart and everything, but they actually were more clever and kind of worked their way into a lot of money doing like acting silly on TV, acting like they weren't as smart as they actually were. But I saw that as soon as they said she was a socialite or debutante, and that they were trying to get her to marry into, she had a good family, but they were trying to get her to marry into a good family as well. So let's chat about the story arc and character development. What'd you think? Good, bad? What'd you like about it? I'm gonna have Karla go first. What'd you think about the story arc?
You know what? I did see a lot of character development in all the characters, really. Where they started at the beginning of the book versus where they ended. I just felt like they came along several miles in that. And, one of the things that really touched me about this was, I've never truly lived like they did through a war, much less a world war. And how war just devastates everyone that's even remotely connected to it. And so the war was such a good backdrop for the whole development, but then also even as women who are just especially in that day and age, they were expected to kind of just support the war effort. They were like they wanted to do more, they wanted to be more involved, they wanted to make sure that they gave back. And Kendall or Oslo was very much, everyone thought of her as a silly Deb, right? Silly debutante. And she hated that. She really pushed back on that. Even before she ended up at Bletchley Park, she was working in like a maintenance place where I think they were like servicing aircraft, right? Or something like that. And so she was, dirty. What's that?
The hurricane. She was building hurricanes.
Right. And she was, dirty and like just willing to do anything she needed to do. Mabel, she was a social climbing person, right? She was not satisfied with her station in life, and she was very much going to climb that ladder. But in that process, like when she does meet her husband, she doesn't drop out of the war effort. She's like, what I'm doing at Bletchley Park is important. So she sees it through. And then, here is this person who doesn't think that she has any self-worth, that gets recruited to go to Bletchley Park to be one of the code breakers. And, at first she has no self-worth. I'm not good at this. I'm terrible at this. And she met, in the trajectory of the book, she manages to be a huge contributor to that war effort as well. And, it's interesting to me that the work that was done at Bletchley Park in real life was, because it was so secret, none of these people ever got credit for it, especially the women. And, later, I think we were seeing an interaction between Mabel and her second husband. And, he had made she was kind of folding napkins into swans, and she's like, no one that sees me doing this would even know how integral my role during the war effort was, know? So, anyway, I thought these characters came a long way, and I really enjoyed the story arc there.
Deysi?
Same. Even the growth when it came to young women to like late 20 women, and like their naivete, right, from just never knowing anything about men to eventually like being married or being part of the social life. That was another really great one. The amount that they changed because of the war, right? Like seeing death really does change a person. And every single one of them, right, had these pivotal moments, right, when they went from who they were and just changed completely into the new women that want to survive, right, but wanted to not just survive at the bare minimum, right? They wanted to be better. They wanted to contribute, right? Like I think Asa stole some guy's ticket so that she could get part of the war to get back from Canada. But it was her just being like, I want to be part of the war. And then she has that incident at Paris, right? Where she's just like, I'm done being like a file organizer. Like I want to do something. Same thing with Mabel, right? She has those moments where Churchill even comes in, right? And she's just like, he's my prime minister. So there's some great moments. And then Beth just, I think they called it the marzipan incident, right? Or the fight that really changed her because it was the first time that she was ever put into a really stressful situation, right? I think they went 3 days without really like sleeping or anything to try to win that specific battle. So yeah, some really, really good character development. And then just the people around them too, right? You see the struggles, like all the men would just be like, well, I can never. And that was the harsh part, right? The men that were part of Bletchley Park couldn't leave it and be part of the war because if they got captured, they had secret intel. So everyone, apart from the people around Bletchley and their family, thought that they were just cowards, right? So they just had to put up with that stigma. And again, the women, very similar to what Karla was saying, right? Even though they were pivotal pieces of the war, they were just like, oh, I'm just doing secretarial work. It's super boring. Don't worry about it. So no one really cared what they did. And
it was easy to dismiss.
Yeah. Like you never really saw them in their element. Like that was, I think that was the best part about Beth. Like she would change people's perspective of her when they saw her work, right? When they saw her focus and just break things, you break the code. She was just phenomenal, right? Everyone's just like, wow, she turned into a completely different person. So it's good to see the differences, right? When you just have an opinion on someone and then it just gets completely thrown apart. So it was really nice to see that it was bringing that in.
Sandy?
I really don't have anything to add. I mean, Karla and Deysi really summed it up really, really well. Character development was really, really good. I really enjoyed seeing each of the three characters, main characters, so Mab, Beth, and Asla grow from the beginning of the story all the way to the end. I thought the author did a fantastic job incorporating all of these pivotal moments in their lives and the growth that they got from it.
Lovely. For me, there were so many pivotal moments for me that I think a lot of the story was, like you said, they couldn't really say how important they were to the war effort. And so there was that story arc, like growing as decoders and how they had to maneuver through the world, not being able to say, like, I do remember that one scene when I can't think of the man's name, but they were out and he was purchasing something and they saw a young man who should be at war just walking around, and she talked really crazy to him and he had a fit and he threw his threw the money like to, but
the pharmacist,
the pharmacist, like,
I think that was Harry.
It was Harry.
It was Harry. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. So there was different scenes that stood out to me, but overall, I saw a lot of people fighting for their identity. Like Mab, like you said, she came from a lower station. She didn't feel like she was good enough. It didn't help what happened with those guys in the car. Yeah. So that was a little triggering for me. And after they did what they did, then they once again emphasized that she was lower. Then there was Beth and her being under the rule of her mother, who basically thought that the whole war and everything that she was doing was going to turn her into like a dirty woman, because it was almost like Carrie. Right? It was almost like Carrie, like how much of a religious extremist she was, and it just really frustrated me that the dad would not intervene, right? And I actually met somebody like that in real life, where the mom wasn't horrible, but the daughter was horrible in this case. The mom would just take it, and whenever the dad was at something, it was like what do they call it, henpecked, withering, rose, whatever. Like so, but them getting out of those roles, just like Asla as well, um, getting out of that dizzy debutante role, and one of the scenes that touched me for her was when after Philip was with Margaret or whatever, he called her into the room and kind of spoke to her and then kind of went through how important she was to him, and like they all played pivotal roles, but they had many different roles to many different people, and I think the author did a really good job putting that together and making it make sense. And for some, like it wasn't dark. I don't know how to explain it. Because we
Right.
read
There
some
was a
dark books.
positivity to it.
Yes, it was. We've read some dark books, so it never went dark for me. I mean, there was bad things that happened, but the way that she wrote it, which is a testament to the author or whatever. So I thought the story development was good. So now let's do favorite character and worst character. That's one of our favorite parts, right? So favorite character, starting with Cindy. Who's your favorite character?
Oh, I had a couple of favorite characters. I definitely enjoyed Ursula. And just I'm going back to that scene where she meets Mab on the train to Bletchley Park, and how she just like handles, for lack of a better word, she handles this man who is just hitting on them and just won't let up, and how she's just like, oh, something's wrong with your trousers.
Yes.
And how she just like diminished him. I love that. That was such an amazing scene. I did enjoy. I really liked her. I thought Mab was such a go-getter. She knew what she wanted, and she was willing to do whatever it took to get to her end goal. And she ultimately did. But you could tell that she wasn't happy, that it wasn't a happy marriage, and she was constantly just trying to get away from talking about her past. So I liked Mab. I thought she was a very, very strong woman. And then Beth, she was just classic neurodivergent person, in my opinion, where she's extremely bright but not able to connect or associate with her surroundings. But I really liked how she just got the courage to stand up to her mother, and be able to just go off on her own. I really liked her. I liked Francis Gray.
Yes.
He was good. He was really good. And then the gentleman who Osla used to send letters to. Him too. He was just like this like random like mystery character until the very end. I'm all like, you know what? I think I like him. He's like played such a minor role, but like he gave such a positive spin to Osla's story. So I like that he was actually more of a presence towards the end of the story.
Yeah, the one that kind of saved her, and then but she was with the other guy, but she always kept him in the back of her mind. And
I think he used to. He called her Osla from Oz or something like that. Yeah.
Loved it. Deysi?
I love the character of Dilly, the head of the women's code breaker. They call them Dillies. Well, in the audiobook, because it's a British person reading, Saskia, I think it's like Marlevan. Fantastic auditor. I love her. She's in a lot of my other British novels. But she would say harem. So Dilly's harem, and you're just like, really? But honestly, what it comes down to is the fact that Dilly believed that women didn't bring ego to work. And I was like, oh my God, he's so amazing. And the way that he would very, again, neurodivergent, right, would find different ways to connect with the code and explain it so that everyone could understand. I thought he was fantastic. And the way that he brought Beth out of her shell, right, by like really encouraging her, was fantastic. I loved, very similar, like Francis, for that guy was tortured, right? Like severely tortured, because he was part of the end of the First World War, I believe, and had 6 months of the trenches, right? And even if it's 6 months, it's 6 months that changed his life. And he found ways, right, to be part of the world, even though he could have very easily disconnected, and brought light to other people, especially Mab, right? Even again, he did not talk very much about himself, but when that man put his thoughts on paper, like Mab just melted. And I do agree, like Ozla is fantastic. I think she tried to get away from that, the silly dad piece, but they would always bring it back. Like she she then ended up wearing it almost like a shield, right? Because she would get things that she wanted done by being like, I'm a silly dad, and then would anyway, so I thought by the end of the story, right, she's like, no, my goal is to be the best satire columnist and have like a syndicate and like all this other stuff. And she got it, right? She got exactly what she wanted because she never gave up. And she was put into really tough situations, right? She was just like, do you want love or do you want to be a patriot? And she had to make some tough choices in her life. I just thought that she could have been very, very bitter. She could have even done some pretty big damage, right, to Prince Philip of Greece when he was getting ready to get married. But she decided to be that better person, right, and do what was right, not only for her, but for her country. So, yeah, some really great characters.
Karla?
I don't know that I had a favorite character. I mean, I second what you all have stated so far. Some of the things that stood out to me, though, is how the author did a great job, I think, correlating real people to some of these fictitious characters that she came up with. There's even an author's note at the end where she talks about like this character is based on these people that existed in real life. So that really spoke to me. I mean, maybe in the past, my favorite characters have always had to do with like someone that I could really relate to, and I couldn't relate to any of them. I mean, at different parts, yes, but I could never see myself ever being browbeaten like to the degree that Beth was, you know. And I thought that Mabel and her grief was incredibly unfair to Ozla, and then I thought that, you know, I mean, maybe I admired probably Ozla's trajectory a bit more than the rest, just because, you know, I don't know that I noticed this until the very end, but nobody knows who's printing a Bletchley Bletherings. Nobody knows, you know, she's doing this secretly, right?
The upper echelon do know, but
I don't know. And, you know, I thought, so the interesting thing for me is that Ozla could have absolutely have been a spy. She was observant. You know, she was like, her little spidey sense was like someone was here rifling through files, you know, and so I don't know. I mean, I really liked a lot of the characters, and I thought that they were highly entertaining, and I thought that they moved the book further and further ahead. You know, I just thought the author did a beautiful job just orchestrating all the components. I mean, I really liked Harry's wife, who was incredibly practical. You know, she and this man had married because she had ended up knocked up, and then their poor little son got sick. And then somewhere in there, I mean, before the son got sick, they realized, yeah, this isn't going to work out. We're going to kind of go our separate ways. But they decided to stick it through. And then her, you know, her husband like falls in love with someone else. And she's like, hey, it's okay. You can be with him. You know, just realize that like, we're not going to get a divorce. Super practical.
Well, that happens a lot, believe it or not. They call it a poor man's divorce. You never get divorced. You kind of just leave.
Well, but you know, they were cohabitating for the sake of the child, and they're like, we're still really good friends, and I really, you know, I care about her, she cares about me. You know, it's super practical, super, and like I don't know, I think that I often forget that in this time, especially in England, we have this like these old bloodlines, the aristocrats, and how these new up and comers are kind of like becoming part of modern day society. And there's a lot of social warfare happening there. But, there at Bletchley Park, they were really blending a lot of the social classes together. There are people who had gone to college and had graduated from Cambridge, and then people like Beth who had never been to university, and were just kind of some of the common folks. So no favorite characters, but I thought she did a great job, painting these people for the story.
On that point, Karla, you mentioned something. In the book, Bletchley Park was this area where place where it didn't matter where people came from, right? And one of the things that later on stuck to me is that I think it was probably in the author's note where the author was talking about. It's like, hey, there were people of different sexual orientations there, and they blended fine, and there was no violence against them or discrimination or anything like that. So it's like a little mini utopia, if you will, during that time.
Well, they said that's what, all jokes aside, but they said that's why they kind of let it out that the aliens existed, because usually when you have a common enemy, all that crap goes out the window, So that makes total sense. But I'm with you all. I didn't have a favorite character. I think each of them, I related to each of them in a different way. Like I said, Mob, I related with her story maybe because I do come from a not so rich background, right? And her doing what she has to do. One thing that I did notice about her though is, and that could be from a point of view of being, I guess, what they want to call a modern woman or whatever, like she hung her hat to me too much on becoming the best wife and being the best wife to someone, to the point where I think she kind of downplayed the other stuff that she was doing. She knew it was important. She never gave it up, but that was so important to her. But she was smart enough not to just marry anybody too. So I saw, because even when Frances Gray was kind of wooing her, you could see her measuring to see the good and the bad, and not wanting to marry him before he went off the first time, just in case. There's a lot of war brides, and I actually know people who have new war brides in real life, where the guy would go off and you wouldn't see him for years, and you might have thought the man passed away. Like that happened way more. That's not our reality, but that happened a lot back in the day. So I really resonated with her as a character. But if I had to pick a favorite character, it probably would be Asla, because I liked the way she moved. I liked how she was willing to take risk. I liked how she didn't let herself be pigeonholed. And when they did try to pigeonhole her, she used that to her advantage, right? Oh, you think that I'm a ditzy debutante? Okay, let me give you that. But while you're doing that, why have you distracted over here? I'm doing this over there. So I'm all for that. So if I had to pick a favorite, it would be Austin. So who's the worst character? Worst. Deysi.
So many to count. Mrs. Finch.
Okay, yeah.
That lady, even I don't. Bad humans really make me upset, right? She was selfish. She used, and again, there's so many different opinions out there, but she used the Bible as her shield to bully people, which is so horrible. I also, obviously, that there's the traitor of Bletchley Park who literally used women to get what he wanted, which, there's so many things I can say. Everyone in the goddamn institution that treated humans as subhumans just because they could. I kind of hated Prince Philip because he was also a social climber in a way. God, so many to choose from. The MI5 or MI6 guys, I kept putting like oh, you're just a woman, so you're not good enough, and I will always put the blame on you.
So irritating.
Oh, so irritating. Yeah, there's
all of them.
I mean,
all of them.
put there for a reason, right?
Yep.
And then of course, Mr. Finch, because for a man to allow, for any human, right, to allow bullying to happen right in front of them, and just
oh God.
What's
to your own child,
your own child,
right?
Like there's that the opening, I guess I want to say monologue, right, of the Boondock Saints, where that preacher is talking about the sin of the man, but is it a greater sin about the person that just leaves that bystander there to get harassed or beaten or whatever it is? And it's just so it was like the sin of the cowardly man. Like, I'll have to go look up that quote, but that resonated with me. Like, if I could do something, yeah, I'm going to put myself in danger, but at the same time, like, they're my babies. Like, I've never been in a situation where I had to defend my children against other, like, either parents. I'm always like, hey, like, I saw this happen. Yeah, my kids are rough. I very apologize, and I have to be very considerate, right? Like, if my kids are the ones that are being like super rough, like when they get someone else that's rougher, I'm just like, okay, it's just the fact that I'm on the other side of the fence now. But if it's a constant thing, then I'm just like, this is where the Mexican me comes out, and I will.
Oh Lord.
So, I actually even had a dream once where someone like pushed my child, and they like went skating. It was like an adult pushing my child, and I was just like, what? And I was getting into that man's face real. I even woke up my husband. I'm just like, if you ever let someone like pick on our child, he's like, whoa, like, where is this coming from? So
it had to feel realistic for you to be. Deysi was like, I'm about to fight somebody in my sleep.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, that I always, even, and this is the hard part, right? For my kids, I try to train them, like, no one gets to pick on you. You can stand up for yourself and say, hey, don't do that. And if that person doesn't follow directions, you like, go tell an adult, go tell a teacher. And if it's still happening, I'm like, then I'm going to get called into the principal's office, because you're going to get in a fight, and I'm going to take you out for ice cream. Like, it's very simple. Like,
I agree. Sorry.
So yeah, to have a character like Mr. Finch, right, who just lets his daughter, like, the only thing that he ever does for her is let her do the crossword puzzle, and that's sad. That is sad. So yeah, all the characters. Okay, I'll pass
everybody but the three ladies. Okay, Karla.
Yes to what Deysi said, but I'm actually going to bring one of the three characters into this. I had real issues with Mab. So many issues. I mean, I get that coming from her background, it was hard for her to trust people. Having had that situation when she was 17 or 16 or 17, absolutely, you have an issue. But I thought that both Beth and Osla did a great job of befriending her and saying, hey, we have your back. And especially Osla, she's like, hey, I realize that there's like social structure that's kind of between us, but like Osla was willing to get friendly and dirty with her and, like really be there for her friend. And, whether they talked about it or not, like Osla was there during the bombing of that building, right, where her dance partner died. I mean, she got hurt. She was on the train the next morning off to work, by the way, right after the bombing, right? Whether they talked about that or not, the reason that she lets go of the little girl's hand is because in that moment she experiences like a flashback or something to the bombing. And, she has some, let's just say it's PTSD or whatever. And she flinches, right? She lets go of a little girl's hand. And it wasn't, Osla didn't kill that little girl. The freaking Nazis did. And, the Nazis killed Mob's husband, not Osla, but she had, and I guess it was part of her grieving process that she was just blaming everyone. She was even blaming herself for not having had more time with either of them, right? But still, I thought she was so unfair. And then here is their friend who gets trucked off to a freaking insane asylum. She's been there for 3 years. She reaches out to you, right, with a coded message, and you're going to sit there and do nothing. At least Osla's like, hey, let's get together and talk. No, I don't want to talk about this. Like, we need to get together to talk. She won't even do that, right? So it's Osla that's kind of spearheading that whole thing. We have to go see her. I don't want to go see her. It was all about covering her ass. So at some point she distances herself from anyone who's ever been kind to her or like has tried to befriend her. And I just thought she was such an unfair person. And she was just, I don't know, in it for herself and just selfish. I didn't love that about her. And I hope that I don't have friends like that in my circle, that at the first sign of trouble, they're just going to wash their hands of me and just, hang me out to dry. So
yeah, nobody wants that type of friend in their circle, but I'm going to play the devil's advocate because no, seriously,
of course you are.
That's a part of grief, right? I think it was grief. She can't control the Nazis, but she can control her world. So you kind of go after what you can control. So if she felt like they had any part in, even if it was unfounded in her mind, because that's what she can control, she probably was like, okay, if I remove this, I don't have to think about it. This, that, and the other. But usually true friends make their way back to each other regardless. Or that person was there for a season and that season is over for whatever, even if it's fair or not. But yeah, everything you said was totally true. But I've seen people do that with grief. Like, you didn't have anything to do with anything, but because you're there, you hurt the people that are closest to you, right? So
and that's fair, But even in her second marriage, she has distanced her husband from herself too. Like, she won't get close with him. She's like, hey, I'm putting out. I make a good dinner. Like, isn't that enough? And like, this
she thought that was enough.
this is this emotional, and I get it, right? Like, she's been hurt, so she does not want to put her emotions out there because she's afraid of getting hurt. I understand that. But you have children now. You've decided to marry this guy. It's like, I don't know. I mean, that woman needs therapy.
Yes.
And,
but if they're putting women in insane asylum, you remember what therapy or mental health used to be
for women. Absolutely. And actually this kind of goes, one of the comments, and, it was easy for me to miss it the first time. I was kind of listening to the book again because we had all this time between when I finished it and when we had this. But one of the women that was in the insane asylum was because when she got married, she told her husband that he wasn't her first, and she was, committed for
nymphomania.
Yes.
For what?
Nymphomania.
Yeah, Lord, that's what I
said. So that's a valid point. I mean, she doesn't need mental health care from those standards. She totally needs mental health care for maybe our current standards. But still, I mean, I was just like, give it up.
Yeah, so looking at it from a modern day point of view, it definitely was frustrating for sure.
Yeah.
Cindy?
I agree with Deysi and Karla. Definitely did not like the Beth's parents. But I also did not like Mab's mom. I very much disliked her. She I don't know, she was just manipulative to say the least. It was all about, well, what can you give me? She didn't really care about the little girl. What was the little girl's name? Lucy. Yeah, she didn't really care about Lucy. She was just, kind of there for a front, essentially. So and she was all too happy to give Lucy to Mab afterwards. So I really didn't like her at all. There were some instances where I didn't like Mab. Yeah, she was blaming other people for things that weren't necessarily their fault. It's not something that they could have controlled, but it was her way of dealing with her grief. She was annoying at some points, to say the least. There for a while, I disliked Philip, but he was essentially in the same boat as Mab. He was, but with the exception of he had his family behind him, pushing him to make this marriage to Princess Elizabeth, and the fact that was going to give this exiled prince essentially a title. So that it was. That was it. I'll stop there. Thanks.
Say 2 comments though. So one, I don't know if you guys noticed the change of Mab's mom's tone when she would be like, "Oh, you're too good enough for us, Mab, and this is why you're going off in the world." And then later on, she's just like, "Oh, I hope all your daughters are as good as my Mab, who's like, look, she's gonna marry this guy who's like higher social class." And I was just like, ooh, that lady reminds me of Mrs. Bennett, who like changes like this.
Yes, but Deysi, don't you know individuals like that in real life?
Yes, absolutely.
Because I do. Yeah. I absolutely do.
And then on Prince Philip, I understand your family's pushing you, but how dare you string Osla along because you love her and you want to be there for her and
hold on. I disagree here. I disagree here.
All of a sudden,
she ghosted him for his own good, right? Yeah. She stopped talking to him.
True.
And she, and he was like, "Where are we? What happened to you?" Like, I think he was heartbroken. And
but they like Karla, they reconciled. Remember, he had like the flu or something, and then they were at the hotel, and she nursed him back to health. And it seemed like that they had reconciled.
We don't know what happened in that length of time, because remember, Princess Elizabeth was corresponding with him. She had taken a shine to him, right? Yeah. And at some point, you're like, well, the person that I was really interested in, is like gone. Yeah, and so it was like opportunity.
But I'm talking about that train moment, right? At the end where they end up breaking up for real, right? So they're seeing each other. They're specifically getting together, right? And she's like, "Where are you with Elizabeth?" And he's just like, she's just there. He's like, "But what does that mean?" "Oh, well, I'm corresponding with her." And you're like, "Okay, but like, does your family want you to get with her?" He's like, "Well, they're talking about it. So you will marry her in the future. That's a possibility. So why am I here?" "Well, because I love you." And she's just like, "But I can't keep you. Like, I know, like, why am I putting in time and effort into you, into protecting you when you're not going to reciprocate at the end," type of thing. So
but listen, he was a product of his environment, right? He grew up without a home. As she did, as Osla did, right? And maybe when they start seeing each other, it's like, maybe we can make a home together. But here's another person who also doesn't have a home. And yet every time he spends any time with Elizabeth, like, she has a home. She has
everything he wants.
Exactly.
Yeah. And he's just nicely fits into a world that's already created.
Yes, exactly. So, exactly.
Be a man, make your choice, and stick with it.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Young people play the field,
Yeah, I realize these are young people.
I don't begrudge him that.
He's like 28 at that point in time. Like he's
he's been off to war. Like, I still don't begrudge him that. And she, I don't know. I mean,
in the 40s, that was old.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so I didn't. Yeah, because maybe I did look them up. Like, when the story started, I was like, "Are these real people?" I'm like, "Oh my gosh, yes, it absolutely is. Absolutely are." So maybe like knowing into it, like knowing what the end would be, which is that he was going to marry Elizabeth, and they were going to be married for like over 40 years, right? They were married, before his death. Real Philip. Yeah. And by all accounts, it was a happy marriage, and so anyway. I don't know. I mean, I just
come on. I mean, come on.
Anyway, and Osla, I don't know. I just
She
was
finds her
engaged.
She finds her happy.
She does. But like, you know, again, she was a career woman, which is what she really wanted. Like she never, it wasn't like in her future, she's like, I can't wait to get married. Her future was all about creating a career for herself and like, you know, having her independence and holding on to it. And the fact that, you know, even though she was engaged to the wrong person, you know, she had that. She had achieved her life's mission, which is to be an independent career woman and be apart from her mother and live independently and make her own choices. So she was living her life. So I just didn't feel bad about it, that had, you know, fizzled out the way it did.
I agree. I didn't feel bad about that either. I was happy for Elsa. She got what she wanted and everything turned out fine for her. So I wasn't unhappy about that. I didn't like the way that Philip approached the situation, as you know, as Deysi mentioned a little while ago. That's just it.
V, what about you? Worst character?
Worst character for me is well, yeah, I definitely could not stand Beth's parents. Like I cannot stand them. I told you it was giving Carrie vibes, like how she would always pinch her at the sorest part of her elbow. Everything she did was like her being a sinner, and then she would pull out Bible verses when it was hi baby. She would pull out Bible verses when it was convenient. It was, there was a bunch of people, and maybe I'm with Deysi. There was a bunch of people that were just not, we didn't like them. I guess it was the same thing as with the girl with the dragon tag. There was a bunch of just bad people in this book. But I think people play the role that they play, the role that they need to play at the time that they need to play them. Like I said, one of the things that, well, the fact that I forgot who put Beth in the sanitarium. It might have been Giles. I forgot.
The traitor did.
The traitor. That's what I say. The traitor, and they thought it was Giles or whatever. That really touches me, like almost to a point of being emotional, because I'm all for mental health, and mental health matters. But the way that people used to use it against people back in the day is why it has such a harsh stigma to it. So knowing, especially I just went to a conference and I learned about neurodivergence and how it actually works and how to work with those people and meet them where they're at. So the fact that they would just throw people away, and I know a lot of people and treat them in an inhumane manner, that person is the worst character to me. The traitor is the worst character to me. But other than that, there are several people throughout the book that it's just not good people. Just not good people. So let's go ahead and get real about the book, because I know we're on a time crunch. The discussion has been so good. Like, seriously. Let's get real about the book. Tell me what you feel about it in a couple words or whatever. We're going to start off with Cindy. What do you really feel about this book, and how do you rate it out of 5? Remember, it's
okay. Mm-hmm. I thought the book was good. It was a good story, very good character development. The story was nicely wrapped in a bow at the end. I feel so there was definitely closure to some extent. I did not listen to it twice the way that Karla did. I kind of finished the book and then moved on to another one. And so I definitely thought that this book was entertaining. It had really, really good moments. I would probably give it a 3.5, 4 stars. Not one that I would actually necessarily buy and hand out as a gift. But it was still very well written.
Yeah, it was very well written. All right, Karla.
I wasn't sure what Cindy was going to say, because she was like, I had some issues with that book. We need to talk about it.
I did. That's hence the 3.5 to 4.
Okay, hold on real quick. Yeah. If we got issues, we got to put it out there. What was the issue, Cindy?
You know what? I don't remember. It's been such a long time since I finished the book. Like right now, my brain is
You
full
just know I
of.
didn't like it.
I thought there was just going to be a little bit more intrigue to it.
Okay.
I think I kind of was missing that. So after that book, I picked up another one about a woman spy in New York. So I'm all like, okay, yeah. And then followed by another one. So I'm two. It's been 2 books since I've heard this one. It's just I was expecting just a tad bit more based on the synopsis that I had read when I first read it. I'm like, yes, it's gonna be amazing. And then I was just a little deflated. Overall, though, it was still a good story. Not one that I would say, hey, Francis, here's a book. Go, read this. You're gonna love it. Not like that. Not like other books that I have truly enjoyed and purchased and handed out as gifts.
Karla?
Now I'll go.
Okay.
So I actually would give it like a 4 to 4.5 star Smartie out of 5. This book is exactly the kind of thing that I would never pick up on my own. Like it would absolutely have to be based on a recommendation. And so I'm really glad that Daisy's friend had suggested it to her and that, we got to read it. I got a little bit of history. Like the funny thing is I'm very much plot driven. I love stories. And you would have thought that growing up, history would have been one of my favorite subjects in school. But I absolutely hated history because I think I had a series of terrible storyteller teachers along the way that just did not make history. It was all about facts and dates and it wasn't story driven, right? But I would have, I had no idea that Bletchley Park was there, the integral part that women played in this. Like, I thought it was really cool. Like, I know a lot of people are obsessed with the royal family. I'm not one of those people. So it was a little interesting to hear a little bit more about the, how Elizabeth and Philip kind of got together and his paramour before this, that was a little bit of intrigue. I thought it was cool that it started with like present day and then why is she in the asylum, like what happened? It was like a bit confusing to get your bearing in the beginning, and then like as the story progresses you've got these 2 things that kind of meet at the end. So absolutely like my type of storytelling. I like the characters. Like I really enjoyed this book. And is it a book that I would like throw out like candy on Halloween? No, but to select few individuals in my life, I'd be like, you know what? You should learn more about this. Like, have at it. Go. So I would recommend it to friends. It's not like every person that I know would enjoy this book, but I learned a lot. And I even told my husband, because he really likes history, I'm like, you should read this. And then when he found out that it was a nonfiction book, he was like, nah. And I was like, no, I think this is probably better than the actual. It was fiction, not nonfiction. So he was like, oh, I would have liked to read the history on it actually. And I was like, no, but it's probably better than the actual history because you just learn a lot more, I think, in this book.
Yeah, when it's structured for you. But these are the real ladies, the real code breakers of Bletchley Park. So they did exist. Of course, they probably couldn't say anything until way later. So they totally exist, people. She built the story around them. So there's a cool article I could share with you guys later, but they very much exist. When I went looking and researching for this to produce the show, I found this amazing article. So, but yes, I'm gonna let Daisy go, and then I'll, Daisy.
I would agree with Karla, like a 4.5. For me though, the select few that I would go with, it's probably going to be mostly women because I felt like it was a very much women empowering type of book, right? Not saying that men aren't interested. It's just they sometimes don't have the same empathetic connection to some of the struggles, like career wise, choices that you have to make as a woman. Sometimes even as like a family member or like a mom, right? But I do like that there was some of the struggles of the men that are pretty amazing to go through, right? And to see. I also really enjoyed, this is obviously one that I wouldn't have picked up on my own. So I'm really, really glad that my friend Laura recommended this to me, since she has her own book up. She's like, this was amazing. I'm like, okay, like we'll see how that goes. It sounds good. And I also was very similar to Cindy. I was like expecting like a spy thing, but I'm like, wait, no, they're code breakers. They're not actual like spies. So like they're not going to be like in the middle of things. Like they're gonna be, the academics, right? And we don't really think about how different, right, those stories are until like we're kind of presented with them. Like it's literally the difference between someone going off into work immediately and someone that just goes directly into college, right? It's very, very different, the type of environment that they're in. But yeah, I thought it was really well written. It was very entertaining. I was even telling my husband about it, and he was actually not cringing away from me like he did like with Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. He's just like, please don't tell me that. He's like, that's triggering. He's like, I'm going to go try to punch something.
Not you triggering the poor man.
Yeah. But I think there's still some triggering moments, right? Like we talked about the bombing of the Cafe de Paris, where Ozla's date pretty much just like died right in front of her. But like even the small description, he's just like, oh yeah, his lungs were on his chest. You're like, oh my god, like that would be awful. And then just the looting that happened right afterwards, like you don't really think about that, like human against human. Like, yeah, the Nazis are the actual axis of all evil, right? But then you think about people who are living in the same town as you. They just survived the bombing, but the number one thing they think about is, I'm going to go steal stuff from other people instead of I'm going to go help the survivors.
Hold on,
right?
you mean to tell me they were looting back in the day too? That's not a new thing. They were looting. No, don't say it isn't so. not the prim and proper people of Britain. No, okay, I'm playing.
but yeah, I thought there was a lot of really great commentary, right? Like, I don't know, very similar to Karla, I did not have fantastic teachers. I had like one or two, right? But they were all driven about getting you to the exams. Like if you took AP World History, you were taking it specifically to pass the AP test type of thing, or to hit like certain academic pieces. It wasn't necessarily like how to invigorate and have history ingrain themselves to you. They're like, memorize all 50 presidents. You're like, ugh. So not great, but at the same time, right? I don't know, we can definitely find things like this to help supplement and really get the rest of the next generation like invigorated into these stories.
So out of 5,
I would say 4.
4. Okay. So let me think a little bit. I'm not sure. Let me think. Let me think for a minute. No, all jokes aside. I really enjoyed the book, and I gave it 4 out of 5 Smarties. I am with Cindy thinking it was going to be like a spy intrigue book, but it turned out there's one of my favorite movies is a movie called Heaven and Earth. And it talks about the Vietnam War, but it's talking about it from the Vietnam side and from the eyes of a woman. And it was a similar type situation with this book. So it kind of gave you like an insider's view of what people at that time would have seen of this war, how it affected their everyday life. So I really enjoyed it. And I think the author created a world that was very thorough. There wasn't many stories left open with no closure. So I thought that she did an amazing job. Kate Quinn. Also, unlike you all, I did have a history teacher that went above and beyond. So I have a love for history that a lot of people don't have. I love biographies and I love history. And shout out to Mr. Howie, 10th grade history. He would teach us things like about the Chicago, things he probably would get in trouble now, but he was a whole white man, an older white man. But he would teach us about stuff like the Chicago 7, different things that happened that you wouldn't read about in the curriculum, but totally happened. And it opened my love for history and all things human people. I love to hear people's stories. and I thought this was an amazing one. So it definitely earned the 4 out of 5. So before we finish this up, we got a couple of little businesses to handle, but let's do this real quick. Right, I believe it or not, plenty of people have dropped in while we've been talking. I can see them, you can't. Shout out to the people that have dropped in. While you're here, please give us a like. It's free 99. It costs you nothing. Like the video if you like my content. Go ahead and subscribe. My subscribers pretty much grow more through my shorts, even though people pass through the videos. And I appreciate you guys joining me and always making this. Like, this is one of the few videos I'm still doing in full mode on my channel. So that's how much I enjoy these videos. And you guys help me explore different stories. So with that being said, I think I'm the next person who's supposed to pick a book, right? So I'm having a conundrum. So the book I want you guys to read is raunchy. It might be too raunchy.
You got my vote.
You tell me to go. No. This is not like romance. Her heaving bosom. Yeah, I'm going left with this. It's not one of those. It's raunchy.
I thought that was the book that we were reading this time. So
those messages.
Let's do it.
There's no quivering members or anything like that. Listen, look, I've gone left. But anyways, this book is super duper raunchy, and I'm embarrassed to even have y'all reading it, but I think I'm gonna do it because I just want to see what you guys are gonna say. At any point,
has this been inspired by your recent Vegas trip?
And let me tell you. Real quick, yes.
Oh yeah,
it was awesome. But one of the highlights of the trip, because my friend invited her line sister. Shout out to y'all. Invited her line sisters. We had a great time. We went to go see the Cirque du Soleil. We thought, it was beautiful. It was artistic. It was amazing. My friend was like, like it was late. It was late. But I think I caught her sleeping a little bit during it. So Karla had suggested a show called Absinthe. Yeah, put your head down to shame. Put your head down to shame. And baby, it was amazing. It was so good. It was raunchy in so many ways. And there were circus tricks. It was like the raunchiest show, but there were circus tricks. So I was like, this is right up my alley. And after it was all over, my friend turned and looked at me and she was like, that was amazing. Like, I can't really share everything that I recorded. That's why, if you notice, I haven't really shared too much from the Vegas trip, other than the fact that I was there with the beautiful Cindy. We got to see each other. But the Vegas trip was, we did all the stuff, Hoover Dam, Grand Canyon, all that good stuff. But that was one of the highlights. And that same day we went to Hell's Kitchen as well. And I had one of the best desserts I've ever had in my life. I might have to go to the Hell's Kitchen in Miami. This toffee thing that they're known for. Literally, it was like better than sex. It was like lit. It was so good. But anyway,
you're eating it while thinking of the show.
Like, yeah. And that was before we went to Absinthe. So there was a lot of sexiness going on. But anyway,
it seems that the Vegas trip is the inspiration for this Pigby.
Yeah, no, it is. Honestly and truthfully, it's one of my favorite books, but it has explicit scenes in it. So before I suggest it to y'all, you guys can vote me down, but I could pick a totally different book. I go a totally different route. So, but the book I'm going to have you guys read. And yes, I'm doing it on air on purpose. Chasing Destiny by Eric Jerome Dickey. It is one of the founding things of urban lit, other than The Coldest Winter Ever by Sister Souljah. And the sequel was terrible. We're not going to go down that path. But the original book, even people looking at it now, is like, why were we reading this when we were teenagers? But there's different authors that came out in Black urban lit, and Eric Jerome Dickey is one of them. And this book is one of his earlier books. I mean, he has a whole set of earlier books, but this is like in the middle. And it's awesome. It's about a lady biker and her adventures dating a married man. But so it's gonna be wild. So that's gonna be the next book. So let's go ahead and have you guys close out because I know everybody have places to be. So Deysi.
Great hanging out with you ladies always. Such fun. Don't remember me as like the petty person or the man hater. I just tend to be very, very logical in some of my choices. And I think Karla, like we've had like these conversations before. Like I've actually even broken up with people and just been like, nope, they're not getting another chance. She's like, why not? I'm like, it's just not gonna work out. So
I love that about you, I promise.
very that's what you guys like invited me to the trip anyways, because I'm just like the logical, like I'm gonna organize our trip, I'm gonna like do all the research on all the food and all the places.
I love it.
It's for you.
She made sure we ate good, y'all. So, Karla,
like if you guys, I was gonna say, but just always, I would say always follow your dream, right? It's hard no matter where you are, who you are, what race, what religious belief, whatever you have, right, that identifies you as unique. Don't let that be the thing that holds you back from pursuing what you want to be. If that is, culture norms or standards out there, be that pioneer, because there's going to be tons of people behind you wanting to break into that same area, right? Karla and I, first generation college bound, like immigrants, super poor, like had to do a bunch of scholarships just to get to college. But I do know, right, that my struggles shape me into the person that I am today, to strive to hit my goals. And I never thought I would make it here. Like sometimes I wake up in my house and I'm like, I can't believe I'm a homeowner. Like that is just huge for my generation, right? Like it's one of those things that if I didn't have a mother who's just like, be better than me, like you do not want to struggle, you need to like go out and reach your dreams. She's like, whatever you're struggling right now is going to be like just the bare minimum, like get out there. So if I didn't have that person kind of pushing me forward, if I didn't have Karla going out and just breaking all the rules and leaving the house and going to like Florida for college,
I'm out.
Yeah, it gave me the courage. So I went off again. We're from Arizona. I went off to Ohio. Like I didn't really know what snow was. I learned, but it was one of those things that it allowed me to become the person that I am today with those struggles, not just again culturally, because even back then we were super religious to the point where you were getting judged by whatever you decided to do. Like if you didn't go to church on Sunday, you got judged. If you didn't wear certain clothes, you got judged. If you didn't believe the same thing that everyone else believed, you got judged. So at some point in time,
down with oppression.
Be true to yourself. Be true to yourself, to your beliefs. You are unique for a reason. And if you don't rely on yourself and love yourself, it's going to be a struggle to just live with yourself throughout the course of the year. So go out for your dreams, be true, and I'll pass it on.
That was Lord.
I don't want to go next.
Karla, you don't, or you don't want to go next?
I enjoyed the book. It was good to see you, ladies.
Okay. She said it all. Oh my gosh, Cindy.
I have nothing to add other than Daisy's the organizer. She keeps us on track.
Yeah,
and
I'm taking back the soapbox.
Yeah. And I'm just along for the ride.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. But for real,
I appreciate you, Deysi. You are an amazing human, and you make our lives so rich with your presence.
Man, nobody could have said that better. Karla?
I said it.
Okay.
I love you, lady. I'm done. And I'm taking back the soapbox.
Look, you actually humbled Karla. What the with all those good words. Yes, I was very touched by what you just said, and all of it is true. I'm also first generation, And I feel very, very blessed that even if you complain, like I told you guys, my computer just completely kaputted, right? Working on a project, completely kaputted. I was upset. But when I think about the way that I've been blessed in so many other ways, like I said, my child turning 18, Karla, you remember, Lisa was
I
like,
held him in my arms.
yeah,
The day
I
he
said,
was born.
Lisa said something, and I was like, "Yeah, we went a long way from the baby shower at the Golden Corral to this, right? Because we were broke. We had my baby shower at the Golden Corral, baby. But yeah, we are amazing women. I'm so proud of us, and you guys enrich me in so many ways. Like you guys don't even know how much you guys enrich me. And I thoroughly enjoy when we jump on here and do these books or whatever. So, but I'm gonna take it down into the gutter. Look, we go up to the gutter, baby. But no, all jokes aside, I appreciate you all for always jumping on my channel and making the content amazing. This is the way that I wanted my channel to actually be. Sometimes I get caught up in the celebrity garbage because everybody's looking at the garbage. But I wanted my channel, it's the Sepia Scholar. I wanted people to learn. I may even start doing the videos where I just say what I learned from something because it can drain you. But you guys always inspire me. And you guys have some fans, especially you, Cindy. I don't know. They say, woo-wee. Yeah. So I got a couple of little reach outs about you. I said, that's a married woman. But,
to a very jealous man, mind you.
I gotta leave her alone. Either way, thank you guys so much. So we're gonna. Well, what do I always say? I gotta remember. Love who loves you. May God bless you with everything that you need. And Sepia Scholar and her beautiful, smart friends are out.